there's a number that gets thrown around a lot in headlines and online. Debates: 65,000. That's the supposed number of armored vehicles in the arsenal of the Islamic Republic of Iran, suggesting one of the largest mechanized armies on Earth. It's a figure that conjures up images of a steel behemoth, an unstoppable force ready to challenge any army, even the United States. But is that number real? And more to the point, could that armored force, no matter the size, actually stand up to the unmatched technology, logistics, and sheer firepower of the US military? We're going to cut through the noise and look at the real data to answer a simple question. In a straight-up conventional fight, who would own the battlefield? Before we get to the tanks, we have to talk about the two things that fuel a modern military: money and people. And here, the gap between the US and Iran isn't just a gap, it's a canyon. It all starts with money. The proposed US defense budget for 2025 is a mind-boggling $850 billion. That's more than the next 10 countries' military budgets combined. It's the engine that funds everything from stealth bombers to the salary and advanced training of every single soldier. In contrast, Iran's defense budget is estimated to be around $23 billion. That's a respectable sum for a regional power. But it's less than 3% of what the US spends. This financial disparity shapes everything: the quality of the gear, the pace of modernization, and the ability to fight a long high-tech war. Then you have the people. The United States fields a professional all-volunteer force of about 1.3 million active-duty personnel, backed by roughly 800,000 in the National Guard and Reserves. These are highly trained troops with experience using some of the most advanced and interconnected military technology on the planet. Iran's military is structured with around 610,000 active personnel and another 350,000 in the reserves. This force is split between the regular army and the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. While large and dedicated, this force relies heavily on conscription, and its technology is, for the most part, decades behind America's. So, let's tackle that headline number. 65,000 armored vehicles. Where does it come from? This figure, often cited by sources like Global Firepower, is misleading because it appears to include just about every vehicle the military owns, from logistical trucks and jeeps to ancient, rusting museum pieces. For a real comparison, we have to look at what actually fights. Independent analysis from defense experts paints a much different picture. The International Institute for Strategic Studies Military Balance suggests Iran's actual number of combat-capable armored vehicles is in the low thousands, not tens of thousands. The heart of an armored force is the main battle tank. The US operates thousands of M1 Abrams tanks, protected by incredibly advanced composite armor and armed with a devastating 120mm cannon. The Abrams is a monster. Its sophisticated thermal sights and digital fire control systems allow it to hit targets from miles away, day or night, in almost any weather. Iran's tank fleet is a jumble of different eras and countries. Its most common tank is the Soviet-era T-72. It also uses hundreds of even older designs, like the T-54 and T, plus some British Chieftain and American M60 tanks from before the 1979 revolution. Iran's top domestic tank, the Carrier, looks impressive and resembles a modern Russian T-90. But analysts believe it's fundamentally a heavily upgraded T-72. It has better armor and fire control, but it carries a critical design flaw from the T-72. The ammunition is stored with the crew. If the armor is ever pierced, the entire tank is likely to vaporize in a catastrophic explosion. When you look at other fighting vehicles, the story is the same. The US has over 6,500 M2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles to carry troops into battle, supported by thousands of other armored personnel carriers. Iran has perhaps 600 Soviet-era, BMP-1 South and BMP-2 South, along with a few hundred of their locally made copies. So, while the total number on paper might seem big, the force that can actually fight is dwarfed by the US in both numbers and, crucially, quality. The gap between a 2025 M1 Abrams and a 1970s T-72 isn't a gap, it's a different century. But even if Iran's ground army were a mirror image of America's, which it isn't, it probably wouldn't matter. Because modern wars aren't won on the ground, they're won from the sky. And a ground army without control of the air is just a collection of targets. The United States Air Force is the most powerful aerial force ever assembled. It operates over 5,000 active aircraft in the USAF alone, with a total of over 13,000 across all military branches. This includes nearly 1,800 fighters like the F-15, F-16, and F-8. Most importantly, it has hundreds of fifth-generation stealth aircraft. The F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II, which are practically invisible to older radar systems. These are backed by a fleet of stealth bombers, electronic warfare planes, and nearly 600 refueling tankers that allow them to strike anywhere on the globe. Iran's Air Force, crippled by decades of sanctions, is a relic. Its entire Air Force has around 400 to 550 aircraft, but the number of truly combat-ready planes is estimated to be under 200. Its best jets are a handful of American-made F-14 Tomcats from the 1970s, kept flying with spare parts and clever engineering, alongside old Russian MiG-29s. These are planes that would be hopelessly outclassed by modern American jets. In any conflict, the U.S. would likely achieve total air supremacy in days, if not hours. From that point on, it's a turkey shoot. The 10 Warthogs and Apache attack helicopters, of which the U.S. has over 900, would be free to hunt any Iranian armor that moves in the open. For comparison, Iran has about 13 dedicated attack helicopters in its entire inventory. Any attempt by Iran to group its tanks for an attack would just create a target-rich environment for American pilots. The story is just as one-sided at sea. The U.S. Navy is built for global power projection. Its core is a fleet of 11 nuclear-powered supercarriers. Each one is a floating airbase, carrying more air power than most countries have in their entire air force. These carriers are protected by over 90 advanced cruisers and destroyers, and a fleet of 68 submarines. Iran's navy is built for a different kind of war. Asymmetric conflict in the crowded waters of the Persian Gulf. It has no aircraft carriers or large destroyers. Its strength is in a fleet of small, fast attack boats, a few small warships, and about 25 submarines, most of which are small midget subs, for coastal ambushes. While these could be a real threat to oil tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, they would be obliterated in a direct fight with a U.S. carrier strike group. Now, looking at all this, you might think a conflict would be over in a weekend, but that's where conventional thinking gets you into trouble. Iran knows it can't win a head-to-head fight with the U.S., so, for decades, it has poured its resources into a different strategy. Asymmetric warfare. This is about avoiding strengths and exploiting weaknesses. Iran's main asymmetric weapon is its massive arsenal of ballistic and cruise missiles. It has thousands of them, many with increasing precision, capable of hitting U.S. bases and allied cities across the Middle East. The goal wouldn't be to win the war, but to inflict pain and disrupt US operations. Iran has also become a world leader in drone warfare. Its unmanned aerial vehicles have proven lethally effective in conflicts across the region. They're cheap, hard to spot on radar, and can be sent in swarms to overwhelm even sophisticated air defenses. Finally, Iran has a powerful network of proxy forces, like Hezbollah in Lebanon and militias in Iraq. In a major conflict, Iran could activate these groups to attack U.S. and allied targets across the region, turning a single conflict into a multi-front nightmare designed to bleed American resources. So, let's go back to the question. Can Iran's armored vehicles stop the U.S. military? Based on a realistic look at the numbers, the answer is an unequivocal no. The 65,000 vehicle figure is a fantasy that inflates Iran's actual conventional power. The real number of modern, effective combat vehicles is far smaller and technologically outmatched in every way. But even if the number were real, it wouldn't change the outcome. A tank army, no matter how big, can't win if it can't move, can't get supplies, and can't hide from total dominance in the sky. The United States' overwhelming advantage in air power, naval strength, technology, and funding creates a mismatch that no number of old tanks can solve. Iran's real strength lies in its asymmetric tools, its missiles, drones, and proxies. These weapons could make any conflict incredibly costly and complex for the United States, and are the true heart of its deterrence strategy. But they are tools of pain and attrition, not tools for winning a conventional war. In a straight-up fight, Iran's armored divisions would be outgunned and ultimately wiped out from above. But that's my analysis. What do you think? Could Iran's asymmetric strategy be enough to change the outcome in a real-world conflict? Are we underestimating their homegrown technology? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.